On today's Transport Evolved, the Nissan LEAF turns 3, BMW lets its electronauts have a play in the i3, how people could go electric more than you think, and a French takeover of London. Coming up next on Transport Evolved. Transport Evolved is sponsored by audiblepodcast.com. To claim your free audiobook from a selection of over 85,000 growing titles for your iPod or MP3 player, head to www.audiblepodcast.com/Transport Evolved. And by your kind donations. To make a gift to the show or to set up a monthly subscription, head to www.transportevolved.com. We thank you for your kind support. And proud to support Chronovirus, the latest book by Long Island author Aaron Crocco. To find out more and get a free chapter, head to www.aaroncrocco.com. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to episode number 178 of Transport Evolved, recorded on Sunday, December 15th, 2013. My name is Nikki Gordon-Bloomfield.
And I'm Mark Chatterley. How are you, Nikki?
I'm very well. We're live on the YouTubes, Mark.
We are live on the YouTube. It's amazing, new technology. Last week we were going on about how we really needed a new streaming client, and then halfway through the week we get an email going, stream to YouTube. Woo, you're now that popular.
So I reckon we must have someone at Google who loves us.
That would be, I think that must be it. Or we're just getting popular enough that that option has now appeared. But either way, it's good news.
It is extremely good news. So, Mark, you managed to get back to your house okay. We had a bit of a... One of the reasons why the show is late today is Mark and I've got a press car for the week, and we're planning a Christmas surprise later in the week, and you can't charge it at your house, can you?
No, the man who dropped it off, he got me all excited saying there was a cable that could plug into a normal socket in the UK, which is how I charge my normal car. And then when I got it out, it was completely the wrong type of connector. The connector to go into the car was completely the wrong type, not the going into my socket. That was fine, but oh well.
Well, you know, it could be worse, couldn't it? It could be worse. And joining us today, we've got not one, not two, but three guests. Let's start with Mr. Chris Neff, who's been very busy lately, driving an i3 or riding in an i3. And you've seen him on a recent video, which we're going to come to later. Hi, Chris. How are you?
Hi. How's everyone doing?
Great. And you've recently been driving the BMW i3. You're an Active E electronaut.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes,
how's
I
that
am.
working out for you?
Yep. No, I had the experience of actually going all out to the edge in an i3.
Awesome.
Scariest day of my life.
Scariest day of your life. And also joining us from just down the road to Chris is Mr. Michael Thwaite and Pamela Thwaite as well, his wife. Hello, Pamela.
Hi.
Welcome to the show for the very first time.
Thank you.
How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good. And Michael, you've managed to convince Pamela to join us on the show, finally.
Yes, finally we're going to hear from the real truth about being an electric car widow.
Yes, I think it's come slowly over time, I think, but it seems to be doing rather well. And keeping your whole family going electric cars, so that's good.
Yeah.
I'm just going to play a little bit with Michael's stream because I've just realised that something's not quite right with Michael's stream. So, Mark, you're going to take the lead and talk to everybody about this first event, story.
So the first story we've got to cover is, and if everyone's got the show notes in front of them, which I'm sure all our wonderful viewers do, at the LA Auto Show early on this month, BMW held this big drive event exclusive for what they called the electronauts, which are the people who have leased the Active E and the Mini E in those trials. I don't know if you have to have leased both of them to be an electronaut or whether you could just have leased one or the other, but they did this special event. And they held a similar event on the East Coast. So we've got people who went along to that, and basically we want to know what it was like.
Yeah, and Chris, you went, didn't you?
To the LA show?
Yeah.
No, I did not.
You went to the New York event though, didn't you?
I didn't go to that one either.
Did you not?
Ooh. No.
Oh, Michael, you went to it, didn't you?
Yes, we did.
Yes, someone who turned up.
Yeah, we totally went along. It was kind of a fun do. they took us around the engineering shop, which was kind of the techie bit that I really enjoyed. And then they told us how awesome the i3 was, and then they just turned us out into a parking lot full of i3s.
Which
and
is
said,
fantastic.
Have at it. Have fun.
Which
We'll see you in a bit.
Which is fantastic. That is fantastic. And tell us what it was like, Pamela, behind the wheel.
I didn't actually drive it in the end because actually by the time Michael had finished...
Michael? Is this... What's going on?
Well, being the man, it was obviously important for me to operate the controls, as you can imagine. A new piece of technology like this, we didn't want any accidents. I'll leave now.
By the time Michael had finished driving and throwing me around on the roads, I felt so queasy.
Now the truth is out. Now the truth is out, ladies and gentlemen. This is what's been really going on. Pamela, how was it like? What was it like as a passenger then?
It was okay. I wasn't overly thrilled with the car. It was.
Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting.
It was just okay. I went with a totally open mind. Because everyone had told me, got to see it in person, so much better in person than, the pictures on the internet. So I'd gone with a totally open mind. I saw it and I'm like, looks totally like the pictures on the internet. So didn't look any different. It was, for me, it was a bit bouncy.
A bit bouncy. That's an
that might have been Michael's driving, no?
Yeah, maybe.
Michael's driving, a little, yeah. But it felt more like being in the iMeave.
Wow.
Than being in a BMW.
Yeah. That's an interesting observation, Pamela, because you know what? I felt that the i3 felt a little bit more I don't know, I felt it felt not
Mass
worthy
market.
of the hype. Now that's caused a lot of consternation amongst EV drivers. It's a good, competent electric vehicle. And I've said time and time again on the show, it's not necessarily a car that I would go out and buy thinking it's so much better than everything else that's come along. And
right.
We've had people disagree with us before. Chris, you're being very staid and smiling. Do you disagree with me?
Should I
say something?
So should I make a comment from across the pond?
Go on then.
My experience was a little bit different. I loved it, but of course, I was on a racetrack with it. So maybe that had something to do with it. But I was fortunate enough to be asked to go up to Monticello Raceway in New York and ride with a professional race car driver for about 10 hours on the track while they did a video shoot.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
We went all out to the limit. I was screaming like a baby. But what impressed me the most was how those skinny little tires stuck to the track, and the car just whips around the turns. It was very planted. It was very smooth riding. I was seriously impressed. And Erin Crocker, who was the professional driver, she's NASCAR, sprint car, stunt racer. She's been driving competitively since she was 7. She was impressed. She thought the car handled very well. It just stuck. So I like it. I liked it a lot.
Now, we've just got to the video where she's doing donuts on a racetrack. Now, I think there's 2 things that we should note here. First of all, on a racetrack, normally you don't do donuts. But second of all, racetracks are not all that wide. I mean, what do you reckon the width was at the point that she was doing donuts? Because I suspect that was to demonstrate the turning circle of the i3, which is phenomenal.
Well, what we were trying to do was get the rear brake loose, but the electronic gizmos don't let you do that, which talks about safety there. But no, it was pretty thin. I think the width was between, my eyeballs and my brain, which popped out of my head because we did that about 27 times in a row. What you're not seeing in the video, the take after take. And I think I'd like to point out that this is just a teaser. There's going to be more. The video doesn't show how fast we were really going in a lot of the scenes, but the car just stuck. I think that's important to understand because those tires, I was really taken back when I saw it. First time I saw it in person and saw those little tires. I'm like, there's no way. And yes way. It was impressive.
Did that car have the Rex in it? And did you turn the Rex on?
We had both. to test.
Okay.
So actually, we thought the Rex handled a little bit better, felt a little bit more balanced. Maybe that weight helped. The Rex was a pre-production. We had, so the software wasn't good, but the Rex did pop on. It popped on probably when we had about 5 miles left of range. It charged it up pretty quickly to 6 to 7 and then turned right off. So the regen on the car is pretty efficient, as is the Rex.
Well, that makes that is very good. So what would you say to, I mean, Michael, you had a spin as well, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that, I mean, the car, as Pamela said, we had, it wasn't as brilliant as, it wasn't this revolutionary new piece of machinery. And I think, I feel it was maybe a little bit overhyped. But one thing that was surprising was the dichotomy between the width of those front wheels and the traction. It did not make sense. From the steering, the turn-in was incredibly sharp and very solid. The car was always flat and always level, so the weight distribution is brilliant, and the suspension setup I think is pretty good. And I could imagine, we pushed it on. We pushed on. We nailed it out of a few corners, and the first thing that let go was the rear end, not the front. I expected it would just push wide like the LEAF does, and it didn't do any of that. In fact, the rear end was having difficulty, keeping the inside wheel in traction. To echo what Pamela said, I think being very tall, there was that general pendulum effect that you get with tall cars like the LEAF.
Yeah. I know that. Sorry, Michael, carry on.
No, that just kind of detracted from. I guess also we'd just done, a long drive to get there, and we'd been doing a lot of driving the last few days, and after a while you do get a little bit tired of bouncing around. So it didn't cosset us. I guess the biggest thing is when we jumped back in the Active E to head home, we were both kind of like.
Do you know, it has to admit, that's how I felt when I got in my LEAF after having driven the i3. But I don't think it was because the i3 wasn't any good. I think it's just because it is such a different car. And I think if you're coming to this from having never driven an EV before, I think you're going to have a very different view of it to someone who's driven it a lot. And maybe it's just a British thing. Maybe we're just unfazed, Michael. Maybe it's just a...
Well, the funny thing is, and I know there's a shift taking place in North America, but the cars that we drive in Europe, they have small engines and they're very revvy, and they have really sharp handling, hard, really firm suspension, and that takes precedent over ride comfort in North America. And I know this is a huge generalization, but the roads are a lot straighter and a lot wider, and the kind of things that people use cars for here are quite different. They have long straight roads where a soft suspension is great. A big high capacity engine is favorable, and I think the i3 over here isn't going to be a real ripping success, because it does feel to me to be the antithesis of what America was in the 90s and early noughties. I guess the test will be, is America ready for a real European car?
I mean, that's going to be a very tough one.
I think we're ready. You just to go back to one of your points, Michael, about how you felt the car was very flat and basically turned on a dime. I think that's where the i3 is happiest. It's really quick in transitions. You'll see in that video in around 20 seconds where it cuts right quickly between the cones and the slalom. What you can't see is how close those cones really were. They were really close together. And the car did just great. Everyone was impressed. Pretty surprised.
I think before we go any further, I just want to let Michael know you've got static, Michael, which might be the microphone that you're using.
Static, a fizz in the background, is there?
No, it's every time you speak, we're getting this kind of siloning effect. So I'm actually going to call you back, and I'm going to carry on the conversation. And we've got this situation with the BMW i3, I think, where is the first car that I've seen advertising for that's made me go, wow, this is amazing. This car looks fantastic. And if I get excited about that little advertising shot that you just did, Chris, I think people will.
I hope so. I think it's, for me, an EV is about performance. And it's great that BMW did this because they can, who's going to be taking their EV onto the track? But it's nice to know that it's capable of doing that right out of the box. I think that's just great. And I mean, you can find out more when you watch the video. I'm starting to write about it. You can go to my blog to check it out. But we went to the edge with the car many times, and that car lasted 10. Both cars were beaten for 10 hours, and they didn't flinch. Incredible build quality.
So, is it ready for Top Gear?
Is it ready for Top Gear?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Why not?
Okay.
No, nothing's ready for Top Gear in the UK. No.
Michael, we're going to move on to the next story, and I'm going to give you a chance to talk now to see if your audio is working again. No, you're still crackling. All right. So I don't know what it is. It's something on Michael's end. His audio is. I'm just going to tweak him there a second. His audio is crackling, and it only started in the last sort of 10 minutes or so. The BMW Electronaut event that happened in New York, BMW told its Active E drivers that it is planning to offer a special limited edition for i3 drivers of the i3 just for its Active E drivers. But if you guys could choose, what would you want? And Michael, what would you want? And Chris, what would you want? And Mark, we get to choose as well. So let's start with Michael and Pamela. What would you want, Michael?
Well,
not for it to be white.
Oh, too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
don't know, really.
I don't know. An Electronaut edition. I think, you know what, the one thing I'll really miss from the Active E is those amazing circuit graphics. I love the fact that, when you roll up, in the car, people know straight away that this is something very different and it's electric, and I kind of like that.
Yeah, that I quite like that. Chris?
I guess the i8 to complement it next to it in the garage.
Mark, what would you want?
I think if I was to get one in the UK, I'd want it to have a different rapid charging standard. I'd want it to have CHAdeMO rather than CCS.
I would agree. And I think I would want a bigger battery pack.
Oh, yeah. Well, I that got written off in my head because I got told by BMW it never happened. But instead of having an optional engine, having an optional extra 6 kilowatt hours.
That would be awesome, wouldn't it? That would be
brilliant.
That would be totally awesome. Michael nodded. Would you agree there, Michael?
Yeah, I think we all agree.
Absolutely. And we stood a little bit baffled when we listened to the engineering team at BMW talk to us about how they'd cut the weight. And then we all looked underneath the car and we saw the big gap where the extra batteries might go. And we looked at the battery pack, and I asked some questions about the capacity of the battery pack, about whether or not the technology was, on that sliding scale between, if you remember when the first Roadsters came out, the little cells that they have in them, they're only 2.2 amp hour. Yet the ones in the Model S P85 are 3.6, I think. So there's a sliding scale between older technology and newer technology. And I was trying to get out of the guy where they are on that sliding scale. Because, if they're in the halfway, the cost of the battery is, cheaper, and that they could go up to that top of the technology, then we might see 120 mile range battery, and that would be the one I'd wait for.
Yeah, absolutely. I've just tried to play with your audio settings there, and it's still nothing. I think, Michael, we may have to ring you back again in our break and get you to do this. But in related news, and this is the last bit of news of this section, BMW has said the i3 is going to be far cheaper to repair and insure than you'd expect, and this is down to 3 things as I understand it. First of all, the carbon fiber reinforced plastic, which is what the LEAF module, the kind of the bit that you sit in, is made of, and that means that it's very, very strong, and I suspect will need less repair than a standard metal part. But also, it doesn't require the high heat that you would normally get in a body shop to repair it, and the large amount of equipment. It's much cheaper to repair parts of it, and the panels are much cheaper. You don't have to paint them in the same way that you would paint a regular steel or aluminum or aluminium body panel. But also that BMW's work very, very closely with insurers both in the US and in Europe to ensure that this car is classed as a low insurance group, which is very, very interesting.
They don't get to control that.
No.
And that it seems like a very odd announcement when they don't have any direct control. If as far as I know, it hasn't been released what insurance category this car is going to be in. So it seems like a very odd announcement to me for them to say it's going to be cheaper than what you'd think if, one, the insurance companies haven't decided what it's going to be insured as yet, and two, they haven't made the announcement even if they have. And BMW can't influence that decision. I don't know. It just seems really weird to me. Also, what does what you'd think mean? Is in expensive for a car of a similar class, an electric car, a comparable BMW? What are they comparing it against? There's just so many variables.
You're quite
story.
right. You're quite right. But
maybe I'm just being grumpy.
Against general cars, because you don't have to. And it's a really complicated one because carbon fiber reinforced plastic just breaks if it goes wrong. If it's hit, it just snaps or breaks. And it's very easy for them to then cut out the affected section and bond a new bit in. And it's quicker and easier to do that because everything just unbolts. It's like the way that the i3 is built is that the construction method is everything is built on this chassis and the CFRP. And then if something goes wrong, it's just literally 2 or 3 screws. You unbolt it, you put new bits on, off you go. There's no paint matching because I assume that the CFRP panels come in the right color, Michael.
Yeah, just looking at again back to this week's event and the engineering team, we got to see, if you like, an i3 with all of many of the panels removed, and they had them all sort of like stacked up at the side of the car, and the guy sort of passed me one of the panels, the rear quarter panel. And sure enough, it was just a plastic panel. I mean, you could flex it in your hands. You could see where it clipped on to the side of the car and where it was screwed on. And then when you looked at the side of the car was just a plastic frame, sort of loosely attached to sort of bits of aluminium. And I'm trying to think of a good comparison, but it was really like a toy. When you get a sort of toy plastic car, you sort of have the frame and then you sort of have the outer shell, that you sort of stick on top. It felt very much like that. So I would imagine that they'll just keep a large supply of these spare parts. There's a limited number of colours the car's available in. I don't think it'll be too much of a trouble for a dealer to overnight, give me 3 panels and we're good to go. Yeah.
All right, let's move on. This wasn't the final story of the section. I'm sorry, folks. This is the final story of the section. BMW has said that it's confirming its plans to move towards an electrified future for its models across the entire BMW family, because that's the best way to meet tough emissions regulations. Now, a little bit of a backstory here. BMW has been working very closely with Toyota to try and kind of forward the green technologies, the green. And I'm using green in a quote bubble because that includes its diesel engines, it includes hydrogen, it includes electric and hybrid drivetrains. Now, Toyota obviously got a head start there on the hybrid drivetrain technology. BMW has had a head start on diesel technology, and diesel engines from BMW are now going into Toyota cars. But part of this joint collaboration has been that BMW and Toyota have been working very hard together on hybrid electric drive technology, and hydrogen fuel cell technology. And a couple of weeks ago, Mark, we mentioned, didn't we, in the show that that the most fruitful of those so far has been the electric drivetrain technology with improvements in battery design. And now BMW's come out again in an interview this week with Autocar saying, look, We're moving towards an electrified future. That is the way for us to maintain everything that we stand for and pass the emissions tests. What do you think this is going to mean, Chris, moving forwards?
I haven't a clue.
Do we, because they're saying electrification, some form of electrification. That doesn't mean electric drive completely. Michael?
More plugins.
Is Michael, is you still staticky? I mean, let me just quickly jump in to say that, Toyota was always talking about not supporting EVs, but it looks like they're shifting a little bit there. I'm not sure if, I'm not, quite honestly, I'm not that concerned.
I think if Toyota's not careful, it's going to lose. It's going to bet the house on hydrogen and then be completely naked. That's how I view it at the moment. I think BMW's kind of woken up and smelt the coffee, right? It's just the
BMW. It's a German manufacturer. Germany in itself is very dependent on its car manufacturing business, and I think that they're probably under pressure from the government to create the right image. And I say the word image because I do have my reservations over the way BMW are attacking this problem. They are, without a doubt, they are electrifying some of their vehicles, but I think their marketing department is running away with what they're doing somewhat. and I'm a little bit frustrated as well by some of the things that they do with their cars. A good example is we've seen huge 6 Series cars which have a fuel economy of around 10 to 20 miles per gallon, yet they have gauges and instrumentation on the dashboard that gives the impression that they have some kind of hybrid technology built into them. And the same is spanning across the whole range. They are, I fear that they're greenwashing more than they're actually delivering right now.
Well, they're not the only German manufacturer that does that. Mercedes does that as well. They have something called Blue Efficiency, and those badges were exclusive to their diesels or their hybrids, and then suddenly it started appearing on all their cars, including the S-Class, the S550. It's like, that's an interesting badge to put on that car. So
yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's the right direction, and I support it, but it feels like the general public who don't realize what they're buying into are being slightly taken advantage of here, I think.
Especially when we know that a lot of people don't know the difference between hybrids and pure electrics.
Absolutely.
So, a gauge on the BMW swings into the negative, just like you would in an electric car when it's in regen, and shows you that it's charging. And I'm going to guess that there are people out there are people out there who think they've got an iPhone and have in fact got an Android. I think there are people out there who think they've got a hybrid, but have basically got a car with possibly start-stop technology and possibly configured to only charge the 12-volt internal battery on overrun, which, again, it's a good thing. It's moving in the right direction, but I think that the marketing department is overstepping it a little bit.
Well, isn't that, wouldn't you consider that to be conditioning, getting them ready? Because you're right, Michael, you're right. I was with someone in an X3 last year, and they had, that was one that was equipped with the ability to disengage the alternator, et cetera, and it looked like it had a little hybrid dial, and he was insisting he had a hybrid, and I said no,
okay, yeah,
definitely not. But he felt good. He felt good about it.
But that's a bit like the car equivalent of homeopathy. You can feel good about it all you want, but you're not actually doing anything positive. And in fact, you could be doing something negative, because if that buyer was specifically looking for a hybrid and has been fobbed off with this car, he's actually harming the world more than he thinks he is.
We're gonna come on to this in the next section. I think this is a good topic to continue.
He may not. I would say he may not have a choice to go, something. But you know what? I think when they do come out with it, he'll be ready. They're coming out with some plug-in cars. Most of the manufacturers are.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we've got a couple of quick things I just want to say to our guests here. First of all, Michael, if you're using a USB microphone...
sort of, yeah.
Can you? I'm going to call you back after the ad, and I want you to turn your computer off and reboot it. And Chris, you need to just tip your laptop screen or your monitor or your thing down a bit, because throughout the show, your head is slowly disappearing off the bottom of the computer screen.
You can see my extra grey hair.
So we're going to go to an Audible ad, aren't we, Mark?
We are, yes. We are. Audible. Audible is an online service. If you listen to this show over and over, you'll hear me go on and on about it. And I really, really do love it. It's not something I'm forced to do. I love Audible. It's a service online where you can get audiobooks. You pay a certain amount every month. So it's a subscription service, and that gives you a certain number of credits. And then you spend those credits on audiobooks. And they have bajillions of audiobooks in every single form you want. Bajillions, it's a proper word. And they've now got this system in the US where if you're an independent writer in the US or a small independent company in the US, you can get your smaller books. So it's not just books from big names people, although they have all of them, and they have autobiographies, biographies, fiction, non-fiction, science fiction, which is what I'm currently working my way through a bit at a time. They have children's books, which is the most bizarre thing to me. But I suppose if you've got kids in the back of your car and you want them to be quiet, you can put on an audiobook. That might work.
It does. And it does. Believe me, sometimes.
And it's an awesome, awesome service. And if you go to audiblepodcast.com/transport evolved and sign up there, you get 1 month for free, which is one free audiobook. And even if you decide not to go ahead, you get to keep that audiobook, and we get a little bit of money for sending you their way. So it's kind of win-win. You get an amazing audiobook, we get a bit of money, and they get a subscription or not. So maybe win-win, maybe. I've got a recommendation this week, which is a audiobook I listened to years ago by a British writer called Alistair Reynolds. It's a book called Terminal World, and it's narrated by an amazing narrator called John Lee. And this is it's almost steampunk, but it's not quite. It's kind of sci-fi crossed with steampunk. It's based on this world, and there's this one city on this whole planet, and it's this big spire that goes up into the atmosphere. And every level of the spire has a different level of technology. So if you're on the ground around the base of the spire, you can only just about make things explode. But as you go higher, more and more technology is able to function. And you can't take higher level technology into the sort of next level down. It just stops working. So there's this science fiction-y kind of system where the higher up the spire you go, the more technology is open to you. And it's how these different worlds interact, and how people get around in a horse and cart at the ground, and then they go up through cars with sort of curved systems, and then they go up to electric cars, and then they go to hover cars and flying cars, and it's very, very, very cool.
Very cool indeed, and it does sound very cool as well. So we'll have a listen right now.
Torch. When Caltel was new in hygiene and works, the cops were always first on the scene at a faller, with the clean-up crew just there to go through the menial business of peel-off and hose-down. But the cops couldn't keep up lately, and so they were perfectly willing for hygiene and works to handle the smears, provided everything was documented and signed off properly. Anything that looked like foul play, the cops could always get involved down the line. Mostly, though, the fallers were just accident victims. Caltel had no reason to expect anything different this time. They passed through the municipal gate and walked down the concrete-lined service duct, which was dark and dank, with bits of cladding peeling off every few spans. Rainwater runoff seeped through the cracks and formed into a slow-moving stream deep enough to soak through Caltel's shoes. It smelled a little bit of sewer. Beyond...
There you go. Oh, sorry, I cut John off there mid-sentence. I'm sorry. It does sound great, though, Mark. Good pick.
It's very good.
Good pick. All right, let's move on to the rest of our show. We're just waiting for Mr. Michael Thwaite and Pamela Thwaite to join us again. But we've got the wonderful Chris Neff with us. Say hello, Chris.
Hello.
Hello. So we're going on to birthdays now, Mark. Somebody's birthday this week. Whose birthday was it this week?
It was the wonderful Nissan LEAF's birthday again, this third birthday.
Hello, Michael. You're back.
For the birthday party.
Yay! The Nissan LEAF turned 3 this week. Fantastic. And you're no longer going...
That's even better.
But I don't have any video for you, so, we'll just keep talking. Anyway, okay. The Nissan LEAF turned 3 this week. And Mark, we had a little sort of milestone in the UK as well. 3,000 cars now sold in the UK, 3,000 Leafs now on the road in the UK. Now, that's not the 87,000 cars worldwide that Nissan Leaf has sold, but 3,000 Leafs in the UK is pretty good going considering how few people we have here, right?
Yes, and how there has been no marketing essentially for this car. I think there were maybe 3 or 4 adverts when it first got released, and that was it. We don't seem to have any sort of ongoing advertising for it. So 3,000 cars, 3,000, and it's just the Nissan Leafs for our population isn't too bad. I'd like it to be higher.
Yeah, yeah. We are looking at this infographic now. Where the cars are most popular. This is where the Leafs are most popular in the UK. Michael, can you see your hometown on the map?
Is it there? I'm just gonna.
I think it is.
Reconnected
yes.
back up.
Yeah, it is just about. Now, Mark, we're on the map. There's a little cluster around Bristol, which is, and then there's just one randomly off on its own, and I think that is actually you.
Yeah, there's me, and then there's 2 other people in my area who have Leafs. So I think that's us. That's the cluster of me and 1 or 2 other people.
And then they've got sort of moving up a little bit further. You see people like Robert and whatnot in the Cotswolds. And then there's a massive block around London, West Midlands, so Birmingham, and Coventry. West Wales on the coast, which is interesting.
Must be a good pub there.
Must be a good pub there. And lots of people got upset because apparently this infographic points to the West Midlands as being Liverpool, which upset the Liverpudlians. I didn't make it though, so I'm not to blame. Interestingly though, the thing that strikes me about this map is it's not just confined to cities, and Nissan has pretty much tried to sell this car as a city car, and I know in the US the same thing is true, right, Chris? It's all been sold as city cars, EVs in general, city car.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, inner city, suburbs. Sure.
Yeah.
Michael,
I
would agree with that.
You are in a kind of, not really. I wouldn't call where you are suburbia. It's kind of more rural than that, isn't it?
We're on the fringe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the middle of nowhere.
I mean, I've seen the picture of your garden. I know how big it is. So, what I'm saying is, I think Leafs and other EVs are sometimes kind of wrongly classified as being only electric cars for towns, and this map shows there are lots of people in the UK owning and driving a Leaf in a rural area. So, Yabu shucks to anybody who says different.
And I think when you start looking at that, I mean, there's the obvious big blobs where London is and Birmingham is, and there's some big blobs there. But when you start looking at the South Coast and the Southwest and West Wales, and you start to realise there are some fairly major clusters, maybe 50% of all sales aren't in cities, which is, and it makes sense because for me, one of the reasons I want to drive this car is one, I hate city air. It's disgusting. It makes me gag. But I don't want that air to be around my lovely village. I want my lovely village to stay nice and breezy and have nice air. So I choose to drive this car. And it's almost as if there's a better audience for electric cars outside of cities where...
Because you know what you're trying to save.
Yeah, exactly.
Yellow taxi all over again. Okay. Connected to that first story, Steve Marsh, the Washington shellfish guy. I'm sure that's not how he wishes to be known. He works for a shellfish company in Washington State, and he drives 130 miles every day in his Leaf. 130 miles in a Nissan Leaf. Now, Michael, what's your current commute?
My commute's about 75 to 80. Yeah.
Is that both ways or one way?
One way.
Right.
No, sorry, both ways.
Both ways. And Chris, what's your commute?
Well, it used to be about 80, but now it's 12 round trip.
Okay. And Mark, what's your commute?
About 4 footsteps.
And mine's about the same. So we win.
We win. Yeah.
We win. Yay! Unless we have to drive review cars to each other, and then we have to go up to each other's houses, which is what, 25 miles?
25 miles, yeah.
Anyway, Steve is tomorrow going to go over 100,000 miles in his Leaf. Now, several news outlets, they reported that he'd already done it, but actually he hasn't, because I spoke to him. And I sent him an email and he said, no, it's going to happen tomorrow. Nissan's actually loaned him a Leaf for like half a week so that he doesn't put the 100,000th mile on his Leaf. Because they've arranged this big celebration in Washington on Monday, tomorrow. And so he's going to roll over 100,000 miles tomorrow. So, yeah, congratulations. He has lost, I think, one capacity bar. He uses the I-5's electric corridor because he comes down from, I think he lives up near Seattle. And sort of travels down the corridor. And he has to stop and recharge on the way to work at a rapid charge station on the way back.
So his life's been on a rapid charger.
Yeah.
Interesting. And his battery has only lost one bar.
Now, do you want my theory to this? Oh, no, I can't show you because I plugged it into Mark's car earlier on.
Sorry.
Oh, nuts.
There's a couple of people in the UK who only rapid charge, and they don't seem to have any additional degradation either. It's quite interesting.
Shall we talk about my theory?
Mitsubishi reported this when they did battery testing before they launched the iMEV. They did tests between two iMEV that they simulated charge discharge. One they did slowly, and another they did on fast charge. And the one with the fast charge had the greater amount of residual storage.
Yes. See,
That's awesome.
Yes, although Mark's Leaf, as we discovered this evening, has 99% of its original battery capacity, supposedly.
After 33,000 miles.
After 33,000 miles, which is phenomenal. I'm just about to hit 48,000, and my car was at 85%. And then I took it on a couple of long distance trips where I used rapid chargers, not to fully charge the battery, but stop for 10 minutes, have a wee, rapid charge. Stop for 10 minutes, get a coffee, rapid charge. Stop for 10 minutes and have another wee because I just had a coffee at the last stop, have a rapid charge. And that behaviour increased the battery's performance. And now it's reporting 87% of its original capacity. So my capacity's gone up because I've driven it hard and I've rapid charged a lot. And next weekend we're driving a 500-mile round trip with, I think, 8 rapid chargers on the way and 8 coming back. So I'm going to see if that capacity goes up again, but it's interesting. Talking about birthdays though, Olivier Chalouis, the guy who bought the first Nissan Leaf ever to ever go on sale, ever, period. He says his Leaf's still going strong. He still loves it. It's now got 36,000 miles on the clock and it is now 3 years old, which is great. Volkswagen has been playing with the XL1 in New York City, gentlemen. Now, you're both in New Jersey, so you're a little bit further away. But do you think it will be at home in Manhattan, Michael?
I'm just going to say no.
Okay, Chris?
Just
no. I'm sorry. It's it's a science experiment, right? It's not a real car.
Pamela, you like aesthetics. Is this a car that appeals to you?
Just hold on 1 second.
She's just going to refresh herself. All right.
It is white.
Michael will pull me up a picture.
Is it white?
It is white.
Is it white?
It is
You
white,
can get a
yes.
white one. And Chris, what do you think? Well, Pamela has a refresher.
I think it depends on the application.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's pretty, yeah, I think Michael's right. It is a bit of an experimental phase.
It's very experimental. I've
Yeah,
driven
and
it.
it's
Very
pretty-
experimental.
Pretty amazing
This
looking.
is the face that says all, by the way, now.
What's Pamela's face? She doesn't like it.
I don't like that, no.
I don't like that.
it's not for
Even
me.
with the sweepy doors that go up and it's got cameras instead of rear view mirrors.
No,
The cameras
that's
are
Definitely a concept right there.
It's
so.
very much concept. And do you know what the price to own concept would be now in the US if you wish to buy one?
It's insane.
Should we price it
130, is it? Something like that?
Yes.
$130,000?
$145,000? Should we price things now in Teslas?
Yeah, that's exactly
there's a show.
That's how we measure everything. It's like a 1/5 Tesla. It's a 2x Tesla.
Now there's a show that's been around for years called Mac Break Weekly, and one of its guests, Alex Lindsay, they now price things based on an Alex, which is an arbitrary unit of measurement. And I think we should just now price this based on we should just do arbitrary Tesla units of measurement. So, but we have to pick the Tesla to measure it against, Michael.
Ooh, yeah. Well, I suppose the median Tesla is $75,000, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is this like Bitcoins?
Yeah. How many Bitcoins?
It's a new currency that you guys are creating here.
The Pamela Tesla is, I want to say about 120.
Possibly.
That's going to be the difference between the US Tesla standard and the UK Tesla standard.
That's it. Yeah.
It's like US gallons and UK gallons.
That's insane. Anyway, $145,000. You get 2 seats. You get a luggage thing big enough to store your overnight bag, and it's right behind the or right in front of the engine. So your stuff might get a bit hot, or right behind the engine.
What's good about this is it's a concept, and yes, it's testing the technology, but it's doing it on a car they're actually producing. So it's not a concept car in the same sense that
only
people take
producing
along to motor shows where they lie and go, it can go 450 miles on 10p's worth of electricity. It's
but it doesn't. And
doing what it says.
It can't.
It's only got two. They're only making 250 of them, Mark.
But they're still making them. I mean, they're still having to generate resources and put people to make it and make it work, because 250 people aren't going to pay that much money for a car that doesn't do.
No, that's the thing. That's the thing. That's what most people are going to do. They're going to buy it for $250,000, right? Or whatever it happens to be, because it'll go up, because someone will buy it for 150, and then they'll sell it on eBay for 250, right? And and then it'll just sit in some collector's collection, and in 20 years time,
I mean, that's all it is. I mean, Pamela, here's how good it is, right? It has an engine.
Yeah.
It's not even. It doesn't even do what it exactly. It doesn't
that's
even do
so
what it
brilliant. I think we should. That needs to be an internet meme. You go into a car showroom with Pamela, and goes, "Look at this car. It's really cool. It's got an engine." And you go, "Meh."
It's not happening.
Well, this is the point. I mean, what you've got there, right, is a 2000 Honda Insight with silly doors that bash on the roof when you park it in a parking garage in New York City. It's got weaker performance than a Honda Insight, and it doesn't matter that it has better fuel economy because you just paid $145,000 for it.
That's true. All right, we'll move on then. Time to move on, Michael. EV dealers around the country. Some EV dealers, like Paul Scott, who was awarded this week an award of recognition by the state of California for his hard work as an EV advocate, both with Plug in America and in other capacities, and also as an EV salesman for the company he works for. He sells for a Nissan dealer in LA. He got a big award, so congratulations to Paul for that. Mm-hmm. But Paul seems to be kind of the exception that proves the rule. Some EV dealers are great, but most of them, unfortunately, are complete jerks about electric cars, and they just suck at EVs. Why is that? Well, Green Car Reports did a very interesting piece this week. John Volker wrote this, and he got a lot of stick for it as well, talking about why some dealers are inept at selling plug-in cars. And he went through the gamut of reasons. Sometimes it's down to a lack of training. Sometimes it's down to people who are just apathetic. Sometimes it's the amount of time that's taken to sell an electric car is generally bigger than the amount of time it takes to sell a gasoline car, etc., etc. But I'm going to ask us, you should go and read the article, but why do you think a lot of salespeople just don't get EVs, Chris?
I think they get them. What they look at is, are they going to be able to sell it? And sales guys, they need to sell. So I've gone into a number of dealers, and some are more educated than others, but again, it goes back to what's the easiest car for them to sell. And you nailed it, Nikki. The EVs don't sell right away.
And why do you think that is? Is it because people are less keen on them, or do you think it's just that they're just think
they're not educated on them? They're coming in and looking to be educated, and just that a traditional dealer. Let's say you come in and you want to get a minivan for your family. Mm-hmm. If it's easier for them to sell that 4-door, Chevy, that's what they're going to focus on. That's where the incentives are for them.
Yeah. And
so they're not interested in best interests for you, unfortunately.
Yes. And it's also a case of the dealers can get better discounts on more popular models. So if a factory is churning out, 10,000 Chevy 4-door Chevy sedans, as you just picked out, and the dealership maybe sells 200-300 of those in a couple of months, they are going to get a better deal from the factory. They're going to get a better discount than the 1 or 2 Chevy Volts that they happen to shift. So there are the incentives there. But here's the question though: is it the dealership's responsibility to be better at selling EVs? Is it our responsibility as advocates, people who cover the industry, to get out there and advocate more for EVs and educate more about EVs? Or is it a mixture of the two, Michael? Pamela and Michael, what do you think?
I think it's a mixture of the two, and I think it's all down to the dealers as well. I mean, when we went to our local Mitsubishi dealer, I mean, they're totally, keyed up on the iMEV. They did a great job of, we were going to buy one anyway, but they did a great job of talking to us about it and being knowledgeable. Yet the Ford dealer, no, they didn't really know anything at all. So I think it's whether the dealers are interested themselves as well. Whether they're interested in selling EVs, and if they are, they'll go out and learn about them.
We've encountered dealers in the UK who are just completely ridiculous, right, Mark? I mean,
it's really interesting. There seems to be a male-female split. The female dealers tend to be quite good at selling electric cars, and the male dealers aren't. It's quite interesting. What it comes down to in my head, a couple of people in my family have been car salesmen. A couple of my friends have been car salesmen. They go into it because they like petrol cars. They're petrol heads. They like knowing about horsepower, and they read the magazines and they watch Top Gear, and that's what they love. And then they look at an EV and it's alien. It's not what they love anymore. It's the same shape as what they love, but it's an imposter. It's like someone's come in and swapped a car out for what it should be in their head, and they don't have an incentive to get to know about it. But and it comes with so many layers of prejudice. They probably never even got in it and driven it around. They just see milk float, and that's, I think, the problem is that they don't want to engage. They don't need to engage. We're still at the point where these manufacturers have one EV. I mean, Renault has 4, but I mean, how many of their showrooms are going to have all 4 models in? There's probably only got 1, and every other car there is petrol or diesel, and so they don't have to know about it. They don't have to learn, and I think that's the reality of where we are at the moment. Once it's half and half, then they probably will need to know more about it, and they're then be forced into it. That's what we need. We need a bit of force.
I have a bit of a theory here about EV sales. From my experience in the UK, a lot of the time, the people who come in to sell EVs they're new to the dealership. They might have worked somewhere else in the dealership, or they're new to the dealership. They're new to car sales, and so they get lumped with the car that's difficult to sell. If they sell a couple of them, then they get to move on. They get to sort of move up the ladder. And I think your gender comment, Mark, if I can pick up on that, and maybe Pamela, I don't know if you agree with me on this, is that there are less women generally that work in car dealerships. And when they do work in car dealerships, they've often come in at a level where they've either been somewhere else in the dealership and then they get to go on the sales floor, or they've joined the dealership and they've been thrown the hard car to sell. And in order to prove themselves, in order to kind of show the men who's boss, they actually do a good job. I mean, Pamela, do you think there's some mileage in that?
I don't know, because the only place we've been where there've been female sort of like salespeople have been in Tesla. I haven't come across them in any of the other dealers.
That says it all, doesn't it?
Mitsubishi, totally all male. Ford, I think there was one woman. BMW, that's all male as well at the dealership we go to. So it's only Tesla where there've actually been female sales actually on the floor.
All right, well, let's see if this trend will take off. It's called Tread. It's a new startup from Seattle, and the idea behind Tread is to essentially allow for advocacy and education outside of a dealership. So, Michael, Pamela, you went in, you've now got 4 electric cars. You walked in, as you said, Pamela, you went into the Ford dealership knowing you were going to buy one, Mitsubishi knowing you were going to buy one because it was electric. Most people don't, but if people are thinking about buying an electric car, they'll go to their dealership. And what Tread offers is a way for people to test drive electric and hybrid cars and plug-in hybrid cars away from a dealership. Better still, the car can come to you. So it will turn up on your doorstep. You get in, you take it for a spin, you take it for a test drive with someone who knows about the car. But they're not going to, I don't think they necessarily are going to get the full traditional car dealership setup. They get to test the car out, try the car, and then if they like it, they might be able to get a deal from a local dealer on that particular car or one like it. And you effectively pay $19 for your test drive as opposed to having a free one. And at the end of it, you can or cannot take it. If you're at liberty to decide whether you're okay, I'm going to go and buy one or I'm not. If you're not, then you just spent $19 on a test drive. So it's almost like an extended rental, and you get to take the car on the roads that you want to take the car on, not the one that your dealer says. That's a phenomenal idea, guys, isn't it? What do you think?
It is, but I don't know about paying $19 every time I want to test drive a car. That might put people off.
It might do. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think I might do it if I thought that the dealers were nowhere to be seen. Mark, would you?
I could see it being a way in for electric car. For people wanting electric cars because of this problem with the dealers. I mean, what we essentially need is someone like Nissan or Renault or one of these companies, Ford, to go, our dealers aren't selling these cars properly. We will team up with these people and pay the £19 for or $19 for everyone who wants to test drive it. And at least then we know they're getting a test drive with someone who's already bought the car and is therefore likes it and knows what's happening.
Yeah. All right.
I could see it working in some situations, I think.
All right, well, let's move on. Bolloré, the French company who does the car sharing thing in Paris, is taking over Source London. French invasion. It can't be any worse than what it currently is. Mark, would you like to tell people about what Source London is like? Because if I say,
you can't do it
I will just swear.
Source London is one of our many, many, many different charging networks in the UK. I think the last count I did was 22, although things have merged and changed a little since then. So they're one of them. They primarily, as the name suggests, based in London, set up by the lovely Boris Johnson to actually unify lots of even smaller charging networks that they had in different boroughs.
Yeah.
So at one point in London, if you lived in one borough, you had that borough's charging network, and if you went into another one, you needed to be a member of a different network.
Yeah, so I remember.
It meant when Source came together and unified all of this. The problem is, as with all things, I've heard of people, they've upgraded some of the sockets to now to the Type 2, but they haven't upgraded the power supply. So you plug in your lovely new Type 2 cable and still only get 10 amps out of it. They don't necessarily mark off the parking bays. Sometimes even when they do, internal combustion engine cars are parked there. It's just every problem with every charging network is all wrapped up in Source.
I'm just looking now, and I'm looking at this Source London page, and I think this picture here, this one right here, is of a non-British car. I think that was one with the California Clean Air sticker on it. Anyway, Source London, you're quite right. Back in the days before Source London existed, if I wanted to come, in fact, I inquired when I had a plug-in Prius. I rang up one of the boroughs that I wanted to visit and went, "Can I register for an electric car charging card?" Because they used to be free, I think. And they said, "Right, where's your address?" And I said, "Bristol." Okay, so where do you work in our borough? I don't. I'm just visiting. I'm driving 120 miles. Want to plug in when I get there, save some petrol. No, I'm sorry. You have to be a resident. You have to. This is paid for by people's council tax. You do realise that. Facepalm. It's now changed, of course, but I mean, Source London. I think on most occasions I've visited London, I've tried to plug in at a Source London charging station. Actually, very rarely have I had it work. I was in London on Wednesday, and I must admit I did turn up at a Source London on-street charging station. You can park and charge for free as long as you've got your card. And I did for 2 hours, and it worked, Mark. So I was really shocked.
That's
Bellore's
good.
taking over. And, of course, Bellore's, it's not actually Bellore, it's one of their arms, IE Air, is going to be taking over. But charging networks, the business models are just so shockingly bad. I don't see how anybody can make money from them. Am I missing something?
You're missing the government money, I think, is what it is. I still don't understand how it. Well, it is because none of these people can make money from it. The numbers don't add up. If everyone's paying £10 a year for this one swipey card to charge anywhere in London, then they've got a back-end system, so they've got to support all of the posts, they've got to buy their equipment, they've got to install their equipment, they've got to maintain the back-end system that maintains the whitelist, that has all the communication, they've then got maintenance, and then they've got the electricity they're supplying everyone. That's all covered by your £10 a month, because that you don't pay for the power as you're taking it, which it doesn't add up.
No, you're right, it doesn't. It doesn't.
And what's going to happen, and I'm sure I can see what's going to happen, is this government money is only guaranteed until the next election, which is just over a year away. When that happens and that money stops, I think a lot of these charging networks are going to be
go bye-bye.
up for sale. Oh yeah, they're going to go up for sale. Hopefully someone's going to buy them all. But even if you buy them all, it doesn't mean they're going to maintain all of the networks as they stand.
Now you know why I have an 18-month exit strategy. And with that, on to coronavirus.
It was supposed to be just another cargo run, but for Ken Mallory and the 3-person crew of the Raven, an anomaly in deep space changes everything. An unexpected turbulence shakes the small ship like never before, allowing a deadly virus aboard. One by one, the infected crew is thrown back in time to relive a near-death experience. Only this time, death may be closer than they remember. My short story Chronovirus is available for Amazon Kindle, Barnes & Noble Nook, Kobo, iBooks, Sony, and for all other devices and e-readers through Smashwords. Learn more about Chronovirus by visiting my website at www.aaroncrocco.com.
Ooh, very good. You should all watch it and try it. Okay, I just want to check something. Michael, I know that you're a bit time constrained today. Are you both able to stay for a bit longer for our final section?
We've got a bit. We've got a bit.
Okay, we'll blat through those last bits. All right, Better Place's demise has in fact impacted EV sales and stopped people from buying EVs. That's the opinion from EV owners in both Israel and Denmark, who are saying that obviously since Better Place went bust and the battery swap stations were closed down and a lot of the charging posts closed, people are just going back to petrol. And partly because they don't understand charging technology, so they don't understand how long it takes to charge a car up, and they've got it in their head that you have to swap your battery or you're stuck there all evening. And partly because they're not interested. And it's a really terrible story. This is someone talked to Associated Press earlier on that the person who's bought up Better Place will continue in a different vein. They will still try and support the charging spots, but the battery swap's out, and people are going, meh, without this, we're not interested. And there are no incentives for anybody else to come along and take over. It's a bit of a mess, Mark.
Yeah, and I can totally see people's point of view. From their point of view, a company has come along saying this is how you do electric cars, this will make electric cars usable by everyone, and then you watch their business slowly crumble and die. And it would make me think, okay, then electric cars don't work.
Imagine it another way. Imagine that we were in the UK and the company that provides all the rapid charging that we use, Ecodricity, put up a note and went, hey, we're shutting up shop, bye guys.
That's different though, because people have been charging their cars at home through a normal socket or through their home charging station. So rapid charging, the way I think about it anyway, is Better Place seemed to suggest that battery swapping was a replacement for filling up your car with fuel. You didn't need to worry about charging at home because if you needed it, there was a 5-minute battery swap down the road, and it was a direct for comparison. So the idea of changing the model of fueling didn't occur to some people, because in the same way you drive your car to a petrol station and fill it up, you drive your electric car to a Better Place station and swap the battery.
Well,
so
it's slightly different because they did focus on charging at home. I mean, if you were signed up, you did get a charging station at home, you did get a charging station at office, but the way it was managed was slightly different. Yeah, the way it was managed was slightly different. Have you encountered anyone, Chris or Pamela or Michael, that have said, "Oh, I'm not going to buy one because I can't battery swap"? Because I haven't.
No.
Well, apparently this is the case.
All we hear is, when are they going to have the fast chargers?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's essentially, one of the later stories we're going to run into. Actually, Tesla. It's Tesla or nothing for most people. According to a new study by the Union of Concerned Scientists, a massive 42% of all American households could have an EV now today. They've got everything they need, and the cars that are on the market today would suit them. This is not just a case of them going, yes, if this car has a bigger battery pack, or yes, if it can travel further. This is today's cars. Any of today's cars, even the Mitsubishi I, which is 62 miles official EPA approved range.
Downhill.
42%.
On a nice day.
Ouch. Ouch.
Hey, that's my iMove you're taking it off.
42% of
I like driving it, don't worry.
Or 42% of all people who have who in the US could have an EV.
Yeah.
So 69% of households drive less on a day than the 62 miles of the iMove. Less than 60 miles.
I agree.
And this is a really interesting thing. Now, this study did draw some other interesting conclusions. I'm just going to find them here. A lot of people met all of the criteria, and the 3 criteria that they said that you needed to have an EV was access to parking with a wall outlet or a charging station, 4 or fewer passengers, since most EVs on the market are only 5-seaters, apart from the X, which is coming, and the Model S if you've got kids with the 2 extra kid seats in the back. And you have no hauling needs. That's the third one, because no EVs are approved officially for towing, certainly in the US, and there's only a couple in Europe that are approved for towing. And the intersection of those 3 criteria resulted in the 42%. Now, quite a lot of people met all except we have access to charging, either that we didn't have access at work or we don't have access at home. And a lot of those were in family dwellings, so like condos or apartment blocks, etc., etc. And that just shows exactly what we were talking about last week on the show. 110 volt outlets everywhere solves that problem. And if a city turned around and went, okay, we're going to make 110 volt outlets available in all our car parks throughout the city, and it's available, it's there for people to use to plug their cars in, it's not going to make a huge difference to the city's bills, is it?
And it's a nice, cheap way to work towards higher powered charging stations, because once you've got every parking space in your council-owned car parks having 110 or in this country 230 volt plugs, then as EVs start to take off, you go, okay, we'll remove half of them and there be a Type 2 7 kilowatt in between every parking space.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you get to the next level up, you go, well, we'll upgrade them all to 3-phase because now we might as well upgrade the power supply. There's that many cars on the road. So it provides this nice staggered step system. Whereas at the moment, we're trying to get people to install 7 kilowatt charging stations in a location where we're not sure if anyone's going to use it anyway. And even if someone does want to use it, someone's going to be parked where they need to be parked to plug into it.
Yeah.
I'm just ranting tonight. Sorry.
It's okay. And another large group were people who needed to tow. And of course, when these cars come on the market that can tow, and there are some cars that are coming to the US which can tow, they won't have an excuse. This is great news for Plug-in America, isn't it, Michael?
It is good because, I mean, it supports their message, which is that you don't necessarily have to wait for the perfect electric car. You can use today the one that's already out there.
Yeah. Although
that's true, but I think no, it makes a lot of sense. Most of us have 2 cars here.
yes. Although, how many people in this little group here have more than one plug-in car? So the point is, once you get one, you want to get another one. So
I don't.
Yeah, but you've only got one car. So Mark's
That's
100% electric. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Michael, you're 100% electric.
Mm-hmm.
And
So is Pamela.
and so is Pamela. And I am essentially 75 or maybe even 95% electric, because we've got the Volt and the Leaf, and the amount of miles that the Volt does in gasoline mode is, stupid. And as I've just noticed this week, we're doing a Christmas present run to my mum's in Norfolk next week. It's actually easier for us to take the Leaf, the 500 miles round trip, than it is to take the Volt, because if you've got 2 kids, 2 adults, 2 dogs, plus Christmas presents, plus all the luggage, we can't get a roof box for our Volt. So we're just going to borrow a friend's roof box for their Leaf and take the Leaf. It's easier. All right. This week, Green Car Reports ran 2 stories from Tesla Model S owners who made long distance trips. And they were talking about how easy the supercharger network was to use. One of them, however, who had a 60 kilowatt hour Tesla Model S as opposed to the 85 kilowatt hour, couldn't make the distance between 2 of the supercharger stations. And he had to choose. Do I sit cold at 50 in the slow lane, or do I stop for a couple of hours at a Nissan dealership with a level 2 charger? He opted for the second, but the painful realization there was, after having supped at a supercharger, to then get stuck for 2-3 hours to add 20-30 miles of range really, really, really sucks. Now, Mark, you and I talk regularly about how slow chargers are.
Yes, but it depends what you're doing. If you are sat in the car waiting, then even 7 kilowatts is agonizingly slow. But if you are going for a meal, watching a movie, then it doesn't matter.
Yes.
So it all depends on when and where. But I can totally see this. And I've spoken to a few Tesla people who said once you've tried supercharging, everything else is snail's pace. And I can totally see it.
It must be said, though, I mean, the last 2 trips I've made, you joked on TEN this week about how I'd rang you up and bragged about my air-conditioned, heated travel in the fast lane. It was like that. It is like that. We're 120 miles away from London here. And, theoretically, on paper, if you use the NEDC approved range for the Nissan LEAF, I should, in fact, be able to go from my house to London without stopping, without charging. But for many years, I've been stopping and charging once or maybe twice along the way. And this week, the M4, or last week, the M4 was opened up with every service station, every freeway rest stop has a Chatterley quick charger. Along its 193 mile length. Now, I live sort of halfway along. So I go from Bristol to London and back. And instead of stopping at a Chatterley when I really needed to, because it's really empty, and then waiting for the 30 minutes that it took to get to 80% and then another 20 minutes for it to get to 100%, I drove from my house 18 miles down the road, stopped for 10 minutes, plugged in. Yeah. Another 15, 20 miles, stopped for 10 minutes, plugged in. And
because
it was quicker.
This is the sickening truth, is that even CHAdeMO and CCS and Type 2 at 44 kilowatts is slow. If you are sat in the car waiting, it's slow. And 40 minutes in winter, 30 minutes in the summer, 20 minutes to go to 80% is slow. It's only quick in the idea of, I'm at a service station, I'm going to go eat a burger, or I'm going to nip to Lou and have a coffee and sit down and check my emails. Only then is it classed as quick. Otherwise, it's slow. You sit in your car.
CCS, by the way, will go much higher than CHAdeMO.
Yeah.
CCS will go well over 100k.
Will
it? Okay. Assuming the car can handle it, CCS has a capacity to go beyond CHAdeMO.
Good.
That's good, because I'd like to, sorry, I just had a coffee there. I'd like that to happen. But I mean, we're now in this sphere where EVs are no longer restricted to slow trips. People are now making fast, long distance trips in their EVs. We've got these two guys in the US, one who had an 85 kilowatt hour Model S and was able to make the trip far more efficiently and effectively than someone with a smaller battery pack, which is what you'd expect. So the moral there is always go with a bigger battery pack if you can. But then we had this absolutely bonkers guy. He's great, Bjorn, who decided to drive. It was only a 660-mile round trip, but it was in winter in Norway in his Model S. And he got to a point where he was running out of... He got down to, I think he had 1 kilometre of range and 10 kilometres left, but he still made it, Mark.
Yes, yeah. He hadn't quite learned.
And he just bought the car as well.
Car. Yeah, it was his first electric car. He didn't quite understand eco driving. And 10 miles to get to the supercharger, or 10 kilometres, and he had 1 kilometre left, and he was still driving along at 70 miles an hour or so.
He said he didn't charge up properly. He didn't charge in range mode, and that was the other thing.
He didn't, and he didn't slow down. But he got there, and it was all amazing. And it's a half-hour YouTube thing, but it's an amazing first look at an EV driver who gets their hand on it, and you see him finding out about the technology and understanding that if he turns the heating down, he can go further. And it's very, very interesting.
It's a really good must watch because, every day Mark and I are getting emails from people going, I've just bought an EV and it's only got 20 miles of range. What? You lied. We go, no, hang on. All right.
Part of the problem.
You're part of the problem. Meet Bruno Bowden, a San Francisco Model S owner who purchased his Tesla Model S, or rather he's leasing it, and it's on getaround.com. So he's got his nice Tesla Model S, which he drives when he needs to, and then when he's not using his car, it's on getaround.com, which is like a peer-to-peer car hire site. Is that a fairly good representation of it? I've been tempted to use it a couple of times before. Teslas have been on here for years. I mean, I know that there's been a couple of Roadsters in the San Francisco area have been on there for a long time. But on getaround.com, he was earning, in 1 month, he's earned $2,820 from renting his Model S out to other people. And it's half of the amount of money that he has to pay on a lease every month. Is there going to be a cottage industry starting up? You can also almost see Michael sitting there going, I wonder if they have these in New York.
Can we use that as a way to afford a Model S? Can we bridge the gap? But how do you feel about having your Model S, though, lent out?
Well, the thing is, Michael, you do your other 3 cars.
That could be the answer. I don't think you'd lose any sleep over lending out the Focus, would you?
So here we go. getaround.com. I'm going to have to look now. Getaround.com. Oops, that's coronavirus. And then you have to find, and you get to say how much your car is worth per hour. And you can log in and download your app. I know it works on the West Coast, but I don't know if it's working on the East Coast yet. But I mean, there are Teslas on there, all sorts of other cars, and you can just any car, as you can see, and you get to choose how much you want to charge per day or per hour, and they take care of all the insurance for you, and you effectively make money from your car when it's normally sitting on the driveway. Great if you live in an area where it's easy to get to the car, not so much if you live out in the boonies. But anyway, that's awesome, isn't it? $2,820 from. And he's invested half that amount. That shows, in a way, how popular the Model S is. Although I think you'd have to be slightly more trusting than other people than I would be. I don't think I would if I had a Model S, I would let anybody else drive it. Chris, do you think this is disruptive? This is a disruptive technology, isn't it?
No.
No? You don't think this is a way of getting people into EVs for, on the cheap?
Actually, I zoned there for a minute. So
there's the truth. There's the truth. Okay.
It was good. It was 50-50 whether it should have been yes or no.
On either way.
He was is miles away. It must send people to sleep. Mark, what do you think?
I love it, and I can't wait to try it. And it's quite expensive to rent the Model S, but maybe if I go to the US again, I might have to do it.
Yes, I'm coming.
Now I'm on the same page. Different book.
Go on.
I'm back.
Would you, if you had a, I don't know if you're buying an i3, but if you bought an i3, would you rent it out and make money from it?
I have this weird feeling about giving people my car. I just do. So I probably would not.
No. I did try and get my wife to do something similar in the UK, and she just turned around point blank and went, nah. No, not going to happen. Nuh-uh. Because for a while we had 2 electric cars and a hybrid. And she said, nah, it's not going to happen. Not going to happen.
As Pamela was saying, we lent out, when we went on holiday, we were lent out the Active E to a friend of ours, and it worked out quite well, actually. Gave him an opportunity to try something different, but we didn't charge him. We didn't charge him.
And that's where you went wrong.
He already has a Tesla Roadster, so I guess we trusted him.
Yeah. So it wasn't a case of any driving violations or anything.
You took the Roadster as the down payment.
Yeah.
And got the Active E.
All right. Charging etiquette. There's been a couple of stories this week, and this is coming on Facebook a lot, and I don't really know to talk about this in great detail because we're running out of time, but the idea is that more and more people are now getting EVs, plug-in hybrids, which means there are more and more people being jerks about charging. You get people turning up at charging stations, parking in the bay and not plugging in. You get people leaving their car there for hours and hours and hours after it's fully charged and not doing anything with it. And then you get people just generally not being nice about EV charging, or people who turn up every day and use the spot every day and assume that because they work in the local office, it's their personal charging station. So I want one tip from everybody. There's a couple of articles this week on charging etiquette, but I want one tip from everybody, and it must be legal on what you should do, how and when and why you should charge. Do you have the right to charge if you know you don't need it? Do you have the right to charge if you're there every day? Does a plug-in hybrid driver have to acquiesce to somebody who's all electric? Let's start with Pamela.
I think you should have training when you get your car on charging etiquette. Michael?
I think you should always leave a note on your car with your cell number.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Chris?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one.
All right.
I don't think I want anyone unplugging my car.
No?
I just don't like people touching my car.
You want one of those proximity alarms that
beeps. Maybe it's the New Yorker in me because I grew up there. Don't get near my property.
So if anybody was to, for example, TP Chris's car for an April Fool's Day prank or an Active E owner prank, that would be like the worst thing ever.
I'm thinking turning a hose pipe on it next time we have freezing weather.
There you go. Well, someone actually did try. Someone did try to pry open the flap.
Oh my!
Where the plug is. So, you know what? I'm pretty conscientious about leaving my car plugged in longer than it should be. So I usually move it on my own. That's just me.
Mm-hmm.
But if I were to leave it there, I guess I would put a note. It would be nice to have a system where they could just text me. I don't know if I want to leave my personal number there, but some system in place.
Some enterprise encoder needs to do it. Mark?
Or mine's going to be a very controversial one because I saw an argument happening about this on Twitter about 2 weeks ago. I believe that plug-in hybrids should move for a pure electric car because it comes down to need. And the assumption here is that the all-electric car needs to charge. It's not just a, I'm here, I'm all-electric move, but that a plug-in hybrid has another fuel source, and albeit a much more expensive fuel source, but they bought that car so they had a choice of 2 fuel sources and the ability to use 2. So I think if I turned up in an electric car, or I had a plug-in hybrid and an electric car turned up, I would want the electric car to plug in because their need is greater than mine at that point. I think it's a need equation.
What I'd like to see is parking meter style things for EV charging stations with a number on it going, this car has been here for X amount of time and this car has paid for 5 hours. If I turn up and I see that the person standing there has paid for 5 hours of parking or for 5 hours of charging, and I know that the meter is now at 4:45, I know they're going to be gone in 15 minutes and I'll circle around the block a couple of times and come back. If I don't know how long they've been there or how long they're going to be there, then it'll be, whoever knows. But if you start actually charging people for the time that they're sat there, then I don't think people will leave their cars there for hours and hours and hours, and they'll just get towed away if they do. All right. And finally, License to Thrill.
You love this story.
Brilliant. I love this story so much. Michael, would you like this in your
All right,
Tesla?
I'll tell about this. So this is a kind of, I don't know how they came up with the idea, but I love it when people just have these blindingly ridiculous ideas. What they've done is to set up a web page that is perfectly sized and shaped for a Tesla touchscreen. So the Tesla comes with web connectivity and a full screen browser that you can run whilst you're driving. And what they've done is they've created a web page that fits that and is decked out with buttons for machine guns
And you can touch them.
and
They change when you touch them, look.
yeah,
Brilliant.
Of course they do. And this, I think this, I don't know if there's sound effects and stuff like that, but the place where this whole great idea kind of runs ground is that they have a valet screen.
I just think this is brilliant. I think it's just because you wouldn't be able to do it. I just think it's like the ultimate jerky thing to do.
It is. I mean, I'll read, for if you're listening to the audio on this, I'll read what it says. Basically, what this gives you is the ability to walk away from your car with your screen left on a giant yellow caution page saying, "Dear valet driver, you are currently behind the wheel of a Tesla Model S, the most advanced car in the world." The sophisticated technology built into this car uses onboard computers to monitor and transmit vehicle speed, location, and energy usage, which is technically true. Any abuse or change of location, and the owner will be instantly notified via smartphone app. Thank you for your cooperation. Big scratch mark down the side of the car with a coin.
It's so passive aggressive as well.
It is.
There's a wonderful site called passiveaggressivenotes.com, and it's just, you leave it. These are my sandwiches. I would take it kindly. I do not eat your food, so please do not eat my sandwiches, and you leave it in the fridge. And it's just that for your car.
I just think it's just so jerky.
That's exactly what it is. I mean, this is going to be, you're not going to engage the support and,
no support and love for you
from
today.
your valet driver.
All right, folks. This is really it for today's show. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Chris, for joining us.
Thank you.
What are you doing next? What are you up to? More
I'm sorry, what was the
i3
question?
goodness? More i3 driving, perhaps?
I think you'll see some more interesting videos coming out.
I've seen the camera setup they used, so I know there's more stuff coming. It's going to be great. And Michael and Pamela, what are you up to?
We're just heading towards the the Christmas.
Yeah,
Christmas
have a
season.
great holiday.
So
Have a great holiday.
Yeah, we're just
Seeing if there's a nice EV in our stockings this year.
Well, that would be nice, wouldn't it? I don't think I'm going to get an EV in my stocking this year. I've already got one. That would be a bit greedy.
But I realised that last week we forgot to wish everyone a happy Hanukkah.
Yes.
Because that was pretty much as early as it ever can be this year. Completely missed me by.
It was like, about 2... I think we may have done it the week you weren't here, actually. It was about 2 or 3 weeks early. But talking about holidays, we're not going to do a standard show next week because I'll be on the road. I don't know what we're going to do for next week, but then it all goes a bit crazy for Christmas. We're going to do some Christmas hangouts. We're going to do a New Year hangout, as well as a live show, probably a clip show, probably some specials. We're also trying to interview Mr. Steve Wozniak. So if you know him or you have a way of getting him on the show, because I want to talk to him about his Model S and tech, because I think he'd be awesome to talk to. Do get in touch. We've got TEN as normal this week, haven't we, Mark?
We have, yes.
And then we're going to do our clip show.
Yeah.
Which is basically just a 10-minute show of outtakes.
By the end of it, you'll want to throttle us and realise how bad we are at reading off of a screen.
Yep. We've deleted I've deleted all the nasty ones now, so that
Good.
Mark can't get to them because he can access my computer from a long way away. And then the following week we're going to do TEN 10 forward. We're not Star Trek geeks at all. No. And 10 forward is going to be anybody who wants to join in reading what they think is going to be the predictions for 2014. That really is it, folks. Thanks for joining us on YouTube. Thanks for joining us on the Twitters and everywhere else. You can subscribe to this show, or you can watch it on YouTube. You can subscribe on iTunes, etc., etc. That's it, folks. And as always, don't forget to plug in. See you soon.
Thanks.
Take care. Bye.